Hi guys. Well, actually, off the back of that panel, it gave me so much to think about because I was going to come and speak today about how we put the social back in communities with our clients and with the communities that we have for our companies. But I realized actually a lot of it is the communities that we have within our companies as well and with our agencies. And especially since the pandemic, everyone's been working from home or working remotely, hybrid. However you have it set up in your office, it's not that regular 9 to 5 that you used to have where everyone used to come into the office at the same time, everyone used to leave at the same time. You had those water cooler moments. You had those opportunities to connect. You had to go for drinks after work or go for socials. There was that community to it. And that's not happening now. So we have to, as agency leaders, I recognize that most of the people in this room have agencies, have their own businesses doing marketing, that it's really something to think about of how, as we go through today, as I said, I'd planned it for building communities for your clients, but actually how we can build those internal communities as well. So, where am I clicking? There we go. Okay, so for the longest time, and also a lot of the panels that we've been discussing today, everyone's been talking about Web 2.0, Web 3.0, however long all of these web versions, however long they develop, people will still always be people. No matter how, even when we're out of space, if we're in the metaverse, everyone's living completely virtually, no one ever sees anyone at all ever again, we're all still going to be people. And that's something I've really loved today. One of the first panels, one of the first events that I've been back in person, and actually being able to see people face to face, and now especially without masks, and being able to stand shoulder to shoulder and to discuss ideas, it's a completely different experience. And this is from someone that loves digital communities. I've been growing them for years and years, but it's still, there's a different vibe in the room. So how do we transfer that buzz that we get from seeing people face to face? How do we transfer that online and make sure that these communities that we're building and that people realize, and especially business owners, a lot of people have said today that since the pandemic, their businesses have changed or that digital has increased in their company. Because so many companies, that was the only way that they could reach their customers since the pandemic. They didn't have a storefront. The brick and mortar shops were all empty. They couldn't go and do a promotion out in the street and give out flyers or speak to people. There was no way that they could reach people except for online. And lots of companies before you'd speak to them about digital marketing, about having a website, about having social media, about blogging, I don't know, all of these things, and they'd say, oh, it's not for me. No, we don't need that. Like, we speak to our customers face to face, it's fine. But as soon as COVID hit, they realized that, whoa, they were behind. And actually, our clients that did the best were those who had invested in digital. And one of our clients, actually, that has been our longest running client, that they're based here in the Middle East, and they're a mental health and well-being center. And overnight, even though they used to see all of their clients face-to-face, and they used to do loads of events, they used to be out doing talks everywhere, overnight they were able to shift their business without skipping a beat because they'd invested in digital. They had their website set up, they had their events. Thanks to Zoom, they were able to move all of their talks online. They were able to do all their sessions online, but they had all the internal infrastructure and all the social media and ads and everything set up to be able to promote everything that they do. So it was amazing to see, and it's super important. So I want to speak today about how do you make this happen? And especially now, because clients are waking up to wanting to have these digital communities, because they're wanting to have these digital communities, and they're saying to you, make me a digital community. Make me a community. And you're like, okay, let me try and solve this. Like, how am I going to do that? And there's a rush to try and do it overnight. So you tell the client, yeah, sure. Or they want to be on social media. And they don't know what platform they want to be on. They just want to be on somewhere. They want to be active. They want to be busy. But where do you start? So this is what I'm going to speak to you about today. As I mentioned, I've been working in digital marketing for about 10 years, running an agency, Chai Digital. As a team, we've been working together and seeing the developments in the space in these 10 years, I'm sure as all of you guys know, has been insane and continues to expand every single day. It's funny now, actually, like when I first started social media, I was a millennial, young, working on all these platforms, knowing all the latest tips and tricks, and now we're looking to the younger staff within our team coming in to train up. And that's another thing I was saying about communities internally, and someone mentioned it earlier, it's not just top down. it's bottom up as well, like how can we all be learning from each other? And it's super important in this age because things are changing so fast. So today I want to speak about 4 things. So today with the communities, these are the main reasons that people normally want a community. And it's usually this that they think about before they think about why they really, really want a community. They just think, oh, I want this, I want customer support. I don't want to do customer support anymore, it's getting too big, there's too many people asking me questions, let me build a community and they can all answer each other's questions. So this is a reason that they want a community. Secondly, people have become so detached from their customers because now they can't go out and see them physically. Well, now it's starting to get back a little bit. But they have lost touch with their customers. What are my customers really feeling? Do they like this? Do they not like this? Are they looking for something different? What are they looking for in the future? So they want to understand, as we said, the energy in the room. And how do you understand that energy if you're not actually in the room? Thirdly, they want to deepen the brand recognition. Companies, even I think the most grassroots of companies, they need their brand to be understood. To make an impact, people have to know who you are. And having a community that knows your brand and is loyal to your brand is huge for your revenue and your bottom line. And so that's number 4 of the goal, is increasing revenues. And now some people, they do this authentically. Some businesses, they do this authentically, that they want to be able to provide to their community, and in return, that they'll get the investment from their community. There's that real exchange of value. And other businesses are not so organic, that they just want to kind of feed off their community. But whatever your reason is, it's still one of those goals. Okay, so once you've figured out like what is your reason, this is when it all gets very confusing. And we've been discussing today like all the different platforms that you can use to achieve these goals, and you get overwhelmed. You're thinking, is it Twitter, is it TikTok, is it Instagram? There's even communities now on WhatsApp. You've got like Discord and Mashable and Twitch, which is apparently actually giving young kids Twitches now. But these are all huge communities. And where do you start? And how do you know which one to pick? Because it's a huge investment to build a community. So you better be on point before you begin. Even Slack. The amount of communities that I'm seeing growing up on Slack now, and they are phenomenal communities, like super, super engaged. So when we speak about social media now, it's not just about Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or these big ones, or even TikTok's coming up for the millennials. It's so much broader than that. But you really have to think about what your purpose is to begin with. So as I'll always say, and I know it's something that will go down in the test of time, but people will always buy from people. I know it's cliche, but it's so true. And it's making me laugh actually earlier, like us all being back here in person. Because so often when I speak to people when people come to me actually and ask about digital communities, and there's a fear that's in their eye the moment they start thinking about making a digital community, or even networking online. When they think about like on LinkedIn, they're like, well, how do I speak to people? And if someone comments on my post, like how do I reply to them? And especially if they're not very nice, like how do I reply to them? What do I say? Or everyone knows on LinkedIn the annoying sales messages that you get from people. And that they send you this like cold call email or message that's like, hi, I'd love to know more about your business, we should connect. And just imagine if today like someone ran up to you in the corridor and before even introducing themselves, like, yeah, I want to know more about your business, let's go and sit for an hour meeting. And you'd be like, who are you? Like, no, you would not speak to them, and probably if you saw them again, you would just ghost them slightly and just carry on walking, because it's not authentic. But we all know as normal people that we wouldn't do that in a face-to-face environment. But for some reason, when people are online, they think this is fine behavior, and because not necessarily someone can see your face, they think that they can do this. We think that we can send like spammy messages and that people are actually going to engage and they're going to buy from you. And they might do in the short term, but in a long-term strategy, it's not one that's sustainable. And this is also something with ads, with paid advertising and lead generation. For us as an agency, we always start on growing an organic following first, an organic community, and then we use paid ads to scale that community. Because if you just start with paid ads, and you just put all your money into paid ads, the moment you stop, it's going to stop. You're not really building anything. Like, okay, you might have a nice revenue stream, but as the panel was mentioning before, as ads start getting more expensive, and the amount of leads that you get drops, then you're stuck. You've kind of like pushed all of this money into something, but then what have you built? So it's really, really important to think through this strategy. So by the end of my talk, my session, I want you to be able to identify your community goals. Why are you building this community? And if it's not you, your client, asking them, why are you building this community? What do you really want it for? Prioritizing those goals. As we say with clients, like managing your expectations, lining all those things, because clients, as we've been saying today as well, that they expect that things are going to happen in a snap. That you can just magically build a community, or it's going to take like 6 months to build a community, and it's going to be rocky, and everyone's going to be engaging. It's not the case. Number 3, build a community roadmap. So you cannot build a community by one person. And even if you know from building communities in face-to-face, it takes a long time building those societies, building that trust, building that respect, and showing up consistently. So how are you going to do this? How are you going to reach these goals? What's the roadmap? And who else needs to be involved, and letting them know where they come in? And lastly, turning your goals into behaviors. So many of us will identify goals like we want to, for example, increase revenue. Well, what does that look like as a behavior from someone in your community? What behaviors do you want them to show to ensure that you're going to reach on your roadmap to reach these goals? How do you know when it's working? So, number 1, identify your community goals. And there are a lot of goals that you could be looking at. Attracting new customers or new revenue streams, reducing costs, learning about what your customer wants and needs, increasing efficiency of internal teams, so this is what we were saying about inside communities, increasing customer loyalty and satisfaction. There's so many different reasons that you could be building this community, and maybe all of them, but all of these need to be addressed individually inside of your roadmap. Prioritizing your goals. So once you've said, oh, I want this, like a kid in a candy store, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, well, what comes first? Because you can't achieve it all at once. So maybe you are the boss sitting in this room, but otherwise, so what do you want, or what's best for the client? What's best for the client, what's best for your company? And what's the smallest thing that you can do to have the biggest effect? We always say in social media about vanity metrics, that we want this just because it looks good. But what is actually going to have the best effect on your bottom line or achieve that goal for you? And then which one's the easiest problem to solve? Sometimes these are the best just to tick these off before you begin. So once you've had a look at these, you can start putting them into a roadmap. And yes, that is 5 years over there, because as I said, communities do take a long, long time of consistent action and effort to build proper ones. So you can see here in like the first year, so you can have a goal to resolve 25% of customer support questions via the community. Because first you need to figure out who it is in your community, what questions do they have? Do you have the staff to resolve these questions? Do you need to make like a FAQ section for them? Do you need to educate the people in your community? Do you need to have community leaders, community champions that you can start within the community to start educating, so then they can start resolving those questions themselves? Generate 30 great testimonials. One of the best things about having a community is to be able to get, from the company's side, is to be able to get testimonials from that community. So often if we send a link to one of our clients or customers and we ask them for a testimonial, they won't reply. But if you put it inside a community, they feel pride. They feel as part of the community that they want to support that community and to feed back. And then, so one of the last ones for the short term is to post 10 approved case studies. So again, the feedback that you get from your community, how they've been enjoying your product. What have they been enjoying your product for? What have they been using it for? What are they saying about it? And so all these things you can get from your community. And then, so that's from 0 to 1 year. And then for the second year, you look after the same goals, but you just amp them up. So you want to get 50% of customer support questions in your second year, 50 great testimonials, 30 approved case studies. So you just increase on that goal, and then you add more. So now that you have all this great customer support questions, then you can start building a great knowledge base of your customer's best advice. And this is the amount of value that this adds to your company or to your customer is incredible, that if a new potential customer comes along and they see the community and they see all of these people having this conversation about your industry, your niche, and your product or your company, wow, it speaks loads. Lastly, validate our engineering priorities. So, especially for SaaS companies, if you're a software company, there are issues, you're trying to build a software, there are issues happening all the time within the product, and you have a community that's loyal to you, that is willing to give that feedback and to let you know when things could be better. So this is for 2 years, and then onto 5 years, you have those same goals, but then at the end, you can add test marketing and PR copy. So if you have some champion people within your community, you can actually reach out to them. One of the platforms that we use, they actually just reached out to us to ask us to use beta mode, and they're like a big, big company, and they asked us to do beta testing for them. And so that makes us feel as an agency special that one, we use their product enough, and they see us as a loyal customer. And bizarrely enough, they makes us want to use their product more because they see us as a loyal customer, and it's that connection, that human connection. So yeah, testing, marketing, and PR copy, your community will actually love you for it. And embed community participation into the employee's training process. So this is something, when we said as well about it's not just external communities, but internal communities. And then it's also getting ownership from those people that work for you for the community. So often, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this with marketing, that people see the marketing department as some like satellite entity that they take care of doing all their marketing things, and we don't need to get involved. And I know this because there's so many arguments that happen between like sales and marketing. Oh, that's not my job, that's not our department's role, that's marketing's role, no, that's sales role, that's marketing. And as a working in big companies, doing the social media previously before I started Chai, I used to work for Heineken, for example. And Heineken's like a huge international company, but the way that they saw the social media element was just like, oh, give that to Kat. She does the social media. And social media is supposed to represent the entirety of the company, the entirety of their brand, everything that you stand for. It's not just some satellite, put a pretty post on social media and that will do it. So having a community is a great way to also get your employees involved with your company's mission and where you're going. And lastly, turning your goals into behaviors. So for example, if we take a goal of increased customer satisfaction, what does that mean? How do we know if they're satisfied right now? What does them being satisfied look like? How do we know if they're 20% satisfied, 80% satisfied? How do we know? So we need a way to be able to measure these things, and especially in a community. And if you have people managing the community and to measuring these things, you need to give them a metric to measure it by, because they're dealing with it. Because, for example, for me, as the owner of an agency, we have so many communities that we're building, and it's impossible for me to be there every single day looking at all the comments that are written on these feeds and spotting all this stuff. So you have to put a framework in place for the people that are doing that to be able to know and to flag things if things are going a bit awry, and so they can say to you, hey, come and have a look at this, I'm not quite sure this is the direction we're supposed to be going in. So these are the behaviors that you're looking for if you want to increase customer satisfaction. One, people asking product questions and getting quick feedback. So, as I said, our agency, it's not to plug agency, it's just because we focus a lot on community. This is like at the core of what we do. We make sure that all comments are replied to within 2 to 5 minutes. And all messages are replied to within 10 to 15 minutes. Because customers want to know that you're there and you're listening. If you're going to invite people to your house, you can't just invite them into your house and then leave them sitting in the living room. You've actually got to come downstairs and start speaking to them and engaging with them. So there's got to be someone there to do it. So when you know that people are asking questions, you have to be there with a quick reply, give them the answer so they know they're in the right place. When customers start reading information about the products, the product superiority. So this is, if you have a good community, they start leaving reviews or testimonials. One of our clients, they have, when we first started working with them, they had 0 Google reviews. And from us just building a community and not doing anything else, we weren't really pushing their Google reviews in any special way. And suddenly they have 2,000 Google reviews. And it's purely from inside the community that we've kind of ignited this love for the company within the community, and then people want to actually say something about it, and they've gone to Google to go and do it. And then people from the outside, potential customers, when they start reading information about the product's superiority, they see these reviews online. And so then you start to know, wow, okay, customers are being satisfied here. Reading advice on getting more from the product. So this is when your customer actually cares enough to give you that feedback. And again, being there to see that feedback. If it's not so great, don't take it as a personal attack. Speak to that customer, what can we do better? And really take it seriously. Do what they're asking. See how you can achieve what they want, because that's the future of your product. If you just kind of say, oh, they're annoying, just ignore them, it doesn't matter, you're going to lose your community, and if you don't have people buying your product, then that's the end of your product. People using the product and service with friends. This is also with social media. One of the things I love with social is how you can get people to share about your brand and product. And again, with employees, getting them to do that. So the more that people love your product, the more they're going to share about it. But again, making sure you listen to their feedback so that they really do enjoy their product. And lastly, earning points of status that make switching difficult. So I was thinking about this the other day with Emirates when I was booking my flight because I was outside of Dubai. And there was a flight that was much, much cheaper. And I was thinking, do I book this flight that's much, much cheaper, like nearly half the price? Or do I stay true to Emirates because I have my loyalty program with them and possibly I'll get a free flight? And I was thinking like, wow, this is like strong. Because Emirates can be touch and go sometimes as well. Apologies to any Emirates people in the room, but the difference in the quality of what was being provided was not that much difference. So for me to want to choose the double the price option just so that I could get my loyalty points, like, wow, that was impressive to me. So these, again, I'm not going to go through each one of these individually because I think you're getting the points. But for like a second goal, like generating and identifying leads. So these were kind of the behaviors that you look through of what would show that people are actually achieving that goal. So that was pretty much, I didn't want to share too much today. I wanted to be able to give you something to think about. I didn't want to give you a list of like way too many things that you would never remember. But now that digital is developing, and it's one of the key narratives that I've seen spoken about today, that digital is developing, and all of us are like kind of struggling with what does it all mean now? Like clients are saying, oh, I need to be online, but how do I interact with people online? Is it different? Like, oh my God, they're online. But it's like they're still people. And then digital companies are saying, okay, well, now we have all these new options. How do we deliver these results for clients in a meaningful way? And we're kind of all getting lost in the noise. One of the things I didn't include on here actually as one of the products was Clubhouse. Like how quickly did Clubhouse come and go that everyone was so excited, oh, I got an invitation, I've joined Clubhouse, and now not that many people are on it. So if we lose track of our strategy and why we're doing this and how this really matters and impacts our specific company, not just for the fandom, then we'll never build a successful community. And that was the key message that I wanted to leave you guys with today.
Thank you so much, Kat. And do we have any quick questions from the audience? Oh, dear. Literally, I've got time for probably 2 because we're over for the coffee break. It depends whether you want a coffee break or not. Can we send the mic over there, please? So we've got a microphone for the audience.
Hi, Kat. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I just wanted your opinion on a couple of points. You know, as brand owners, sometimes we get confused in terms of what kind of communities should we start. There could be decentralized communities where you don't, as a brand, control anything in that. There could be category-centric communities where you don't talk about your product, but you essentially focus on education and assisting people in terms of how can they do their business better, for instance. And third could be what you essentially talked about today, was product-centric communities, which are more transactional in nature. How do you differentiate between these three, and how would you recommend a brand to start with? Where should a brand start with? Thank you.
It's a very good question, and I think this is the key question. Where should you start? Start with the strategy, always. Start with the business objectives. Because one of the key things that people were saying today as well, like client always wants to see the ROI, that value for money. So what is the ROI for them? What is their business strategy, and how can you help them achieve that? What kind of community is going to help them achieve that? And that's another thing so why you put a roadmap in place, because so many companies, they start straight away and just jump into, oh, I heard LinkedIn is good for business, so we should be on LinkedIn. Oh, I heard TikTok is really coming up now and it has more views than YouTube, so we should start there. So by doing this planning, this strategy process and getting all stakeholders involved as well, every member, by passing this by every single person that's within the company and whoever's involved, all stakeholders, and getting them to read this and to sign off on it as well. With one of our clients, actually, they are a product company, they're a product-centric company, and for the longest time, before we came in, they'd been running their social media solely through the marketing department. And it's their sales department that was out there doing all the selling and speaking with all the customers and getting all the feedback and getting all the case studies and everything. And there had never been a conversation between the sales department and the social media, not a department, but the social media team. And that was one of the things that we changed when we first came in, is to sit down with them and say, what is it that the customers need? What are the questions that you're hearing on the ground? How can people best serve this company? And so it's by having those conversations, putting those questions out there, putting a roadmap in place, getting all the stakeholders to verify it, and then you know that the strategy is right for you, and it will just be so clear to you that you'll realize, like, oh, Instagram is not the right place because none of our clients are on Instagram, or TikTok is not the right place because we can't film any video of our product, or we don't have any employees in the office that are willing to do a dance for us, or we can't crowdsource anyone doing dances. So, or like a myriad of things. I'm sure you get my point of, but you'll see, it will be very clear what kind of community you should build and where you should build it.
And let's take a question from the lady in white there, the last one. Please, very short question, short answer.
Thank you, Kat. Kat, just quickly, what's the minimum number of people you call a community? Because communities become a buzzword now, but what's the minimum that you start calling a community? And second thing I want to know is, do you technically outsource this, or do you always want to keep this in-house? Because why I say this is not every business owner or founder, considering a startup or so, potentially have the skills to really be on social media. Not everybody is that Generation Z. A lot of founders are 40, 45, 50-year-olds, right? So what do you call, so can you outsource it, and what do you suggest?
It's two very, very good questions. I'll try and answer them as shortly as possible. So number one, as a CEO of a digital marketing company, I sometimes quite often don't have time to post on my own social media. So it doesn't really matter how well you know what you're posting. The thing is that there's just so many tasks in the day as a management in the C-suite that you have to be focusing on, that unless you're like really super disciplined and can be pretty quick at it, then it's very difficult to run your own social media. And that's just for your personal social media. Forget about like the company social media. So I would agree, outsourcing it is, for me, the most efficient way. Like, we have people in-house because this is what we do, and so we have clients, but it's still, to be honest, it's still not our main focus doing our own marketing. We're more concerned about our client stuff, because if you have a happy client, then that's obviously the growth of the business. So it's definitely, I would outsource it. And how big is a community? A community can even be 3 or 4 people, as long as it meets your needs and your goals. And that's, again, with the roadmap, as long as you know what it is that you want to achieve and what are the behaviors that community is taking to know that you're achieving those goals, then if it's working for you, it's working for you. It doesn't need to be anyone else's measurements.
Super, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kat Horsley, founder and CEO of Chai Digital. Fantastic session.